Hello, welcome. It's really good to have you here at this time and age, screening this film at this university. My name is Professor Katerina Zakaria. I'm a professor of classics from Athens, Greece, and I wanted to tell you how we got here. I'm the director of a learning community series for classics and archaeology, and one of our minors, Will Kulevich, a junior environmental studies major and classics and archaeology minor, approached me at our event on November 14, 2024. As the director of learning community events and professor of classics who teaches film, and shared his experience watching Bucha and meeting the screenwriter, director, who's here with us today. And I'll say more about this in a minute. After researching the film, I approached Father Cyril Hovorun, director of the LMU Huffington Institute. Archimandrite Cyril Hovorun is a graduate of the Theological Academy in Kiev and the National University in Athens, fluent in both Greek and Ukrainian. He completed his doctoral studies in Durham University in the UK and served as chairman of the Department of External Church Relations of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church and the first deputy chairman of the Educational Committee of the Russian Orthodox Church. He'll tell you a lot more about his experience after the screening. He has published over 500 articles, and the most recent one is Eastern Christianity in its texts. I want to also welcome here Angelika Heinke from the Angels of Ukraine, a nonprofit foundation who has been raising funds to help Ukrainian children. So let's say a few words about the film. Bucha is the first narrative feature film shot in Ukraine since Russia's invasion of Ukraine on the 24th of February 2022. It is based on actual events in Bucha, Vorzel, and Hostomel in the Kyiv region during the first months of the war in February-March 2022. Russian forces occupied Bucha in March 2022. Ukrainian troops forced a Russian withdrawal from the city in April of that year. Konstantin Gudauskas, is a Lithuanian Jew, a citizen of Kazakhstan, an activist who received asylum in Ukraine and lived in Bucha when the war began. After the Russian invasion, because of his Kazakh passport and citizenship, he's able to travel to the Russian-occupied territories and extract civilians out of the occupied territory into safety. While saving 203 people, Konstantin became an eyewitness to all the horrors of war and occupation. In an interview in 2022, he described being stopped at Russian manned checkpoints as he tried to drive Ukrainian civilians to safety in the early days of the war. And I quote, "I was asked by them, the Russians, all the time, aren't you afraid to die?" Gudauskas said, "I told them I'm afraid to die doing nothing." The film is directed by Stanislav Tyunov, and the film's producer and screenwriter is Oleksandr Shchur, who is here today, our guest for this evening. Oleksandr has written a dozen TV series for Studio Kvartal 95, a production company founded by then actor and comedian Volodymyr Zelensky, who would later be elected president of Ukraine in 2019. In a statement, Shchur said of Bucha, "Through this project, we want to bring attention to the international community to what has happened and urge for continued military and financial support of Ukrainian people in our fight against evil invaders." The Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the State Border Service of Ukraine, the National Police of Ukraine, the Kiev City Council, and the Kiev Regional Military Administration assisted the team in the creation and filming of the movie. On October 17, 2024, the film was presented at the prestigious 40th Warsaw International Film Festival, where it won second place in the Audience Award. Oleksandr will tell us more about finding distribution in UK and Canada and looking for distribution here for a streaming service. The main roles in the film were played by the famous Polish theater and film actor Cezary Lukasiewicz and Ukrainian film star Vyacheslav Doichenko. As a classics professor, let me just bring in a line that I watched the film for the first time yesterday night, and this line, I think, is kind of mentioned somewhere in the film. In Plato's Republic, there is a character who is called Thrasymachos, which means bold in battle. And when he's asked what is justice, he says, I say that justice or right is simply what is in the interest of the strongest party, in the interest of the ruling classes. It is they who make the laws of the city. And therefore, it is they who say what is right or wrong. In other words, morality is just a screen for power, or what we would say now, might is right. So have that in mind as we watch the film and then begin the discussion afterwards. I also wanted to bring something from more contemporary Greek history. In 1974, the Turkish country invaded the island of Cyprus, and they have occupied the island ever since. A filmmaker, Michael Kakoyannis, with whom I worked when he was alive, had access to the territory right after the war, and so he filmed a documentary called Attila 74. When I saw the film that you're about to see, I could tell that Oleksandr had filmed the actual buildings following the war, and he had access that is rare. And he followed the stories, the real stories of people he interviewed. So although this is a fiction narrative film, it is based on true events. I would like to welcome Oleksandr and ask him to say a few words before the screening. Thank you.
Good evening to everyone. I'm very honored to be here. Thank you very much, Katerina, for organizing this screening. You can applause. Yes, as Katerina have said, I have been working with Volodymyr Zelensky for 15 years when he was still an actor. He became the president. I became an independent producer. Yes, also feels that his career a little better than mine. I lived in north suburb of Kiev near Bucha. I witnessed the beginning of full-scale Russian invasion, and I was volunteer first months, but I want to do for my country what I can do the best, shooting. Therefore, when I heard from the news a story about this man, I understood that this is like they say in Hollywood, high concept. Because when Ukrainians save Ukrainians, it's understandable, it's normal. But when a person who is foreigner, who could leave Ukraine, decide to stay, to risk his life, for my opinion, it's a symbol that nobody can stand aside when such evil things happen. Yes, this movie is based on real events, but this is not just only words. I met with almost all Ukrainian characters, which you will see in the movie, or with their relatives if they were killed by the Russians. But we wanted to show not only the Bucha massacre, we wanted to show how in the first days of the war, all Ukrainians and free world united and achieved impossible. That days, Russian tanks were standing in the gate of Kiev, but but everybody in Ukraine believes that we will stand. I think now such days that we need these feelings now again. We will have a Q&A session after the movie, so enjoy the screening. Thank you very much. As I said in the beginning, we tried to make this movie very close to reality. I tell you a few facts about it. For example, Igor Poklad, a famous Ukrainian composer, his wife Svetlana allowed us to shoot in their real house. This is their real house, his real award, his real basement, and in reality, Russian mined not only his piano, but also bed. And Ukrainian checkpoint, which you have seen, is also a real Ukrainian checkpoint in the same place. And we even invited some Ukrainian soldiers who were standing in the time and asked them to play themselves. And other things for me, one very important, the very important scene, last scene, all people which you have seen in the last scene, except main actor, it's not actors, it's real volunteers who helped Kostya to evacuate people, who bring food to Bucha and Warsaw, other cities, and we invited them and shoot them. It was our honor to them for what they have done. And also, even in little things, we try, for example, a lot of conversation, which you heard. It's a real conversation because Konstantin have a hidden recorder, and also have a lot of intersection from main Ukrainian intelligence directorate. As a joke, I'm an intelligent boy from Odessa. I don't know so many dirty words as Russian soldiers. I cannot wrote it. And very important scene also for me, it's about Irina Filkina, because everybody in the world where we made screenings knows this hand with red nail in the dust. It's became symbol of Bucha. And this was our idea, to show that this is not just a hand, this is a real woman who wants to live, who wants to live. And I found her daughter Olga, and her daughter Olga allowed us to show the last conversation, and she told word by word, this is the last conversation which they had 1 hour before her mother was shot by the Russians. And a lot of little details, and even such, it's frequently asking question about Tesla. Is it advertisement? I said maybe Elon Musk is the last person who would make advertisement in such a movie as Bucha. Yes, in reality, Konstantin, he had Tesla car, and on checkpoints were standing Russian soldiers from very poor regions, like Tiva, Buryatia, Siberia, and for them this Tesla was really like spaceship, and they feel such expressions. And for me it's very good sign, because Russians say that they came to liberate Ukraine, and liberate Ukraine from good cars, good buildings, from lives. It's so important to show this situation. And I can talk a lot. I think we should continue in format with like Q&A session, maybe, and let's start maybe from organizer Katerina. Thank you.
I'll call Father Cyril. He has a mini presentation,
Of course.
and then we're gonna sit on the stage
Great.
and we'll take discussion points.
I should say that from what I've seen and what I've heard in Ukraine, this is all true, even though it's like a fiction narrative, but it's really based on everything that really happened. I would say more horrible things happened, in fact. And I just wanted to share with you a few pictures from Izum, another place which was occupied by the Russians, and they left mass grave sites, which in my judgment, because I've seen Bucha and I've seen Izum was even worse than Bucha. These are the several slides I wanted to share with you from this mass grave. And actually, the Russians who stationed nearby, they just buried their victims next to them. And actually, they buried their victims even closer to there was a cemetery for animals. So they buried Ukrainians, the victims of their tortures, next to the animals. That was their attitude. And this is what I wanted actually to, how I wanted to conclude this conversation today from my side, showing you another place in Ukraine which was like Bucha. But the context has changed, as you know, as you are aware, and this is the American context. And I'm pretty sure that you wonder how we see it in Ukraine, how the Ukrainians see the shift in the attitudes, the shift in the rhetoric from this country, from our allies. Well, I now say our ex-allies, I'm afraid to say. Our attitude to what is happening in this country, I found very indicative. I stumbled upon a cartoon on the internet, and I thought, when I prepared myself for this screening, very appropriate and very telling of what is happening in our judgment. For us in Ukraine, this shift in attitude has been shocking. A Russian friend of mine, whose opinion I value, referred to it as the second 24th of February. It is symbolic that this change occurred on the eve of the third anniversary of the full Russian invasion in Ukraine. On February 24th, 2025, a few days ago, the UN adopted a resolution that clearly identified the aggressor. And it was drafted by the Ukrainian representation to the UN. And this is the result of voting for this resolution. The majority of countries voted in favor of it. Are the kind of permanent supporters of Ukraine. They did not betray us. However, there was a minority of 19 countries that voted against it, including dictatorships and semi-dictatorships, such as Hungary, Belarus, the Central African Republic, Eritrea, Nicaragua, North Korea, and of course Russia. The United States also voted against this resolution, aligning itself with these dictatorships, in minority. Even Iran abstained. Moreover, the US attempted to torpedo this Ukrainian draft. They really made everything possible and impossible this draft not to be even voted in the UN. They proposed their own draft. And the US delegation epically failed. I should also say that recently I read several inspiring books that glorified so-called American values, such as unconditional justice, deontological ethics, and a willingness for self-sacrifice. I actually still have those libraries in my room. I'm reading them because I want to check the reality against those claims and those books. Because some of those books I know inspired many who have recently come to power in DC. And now I see them, those people, transforming the idea of self-sacrifice into its opposite, the hunt for easy sacrifices. Ukraine has been singled out as the easiest target, a country that has demonstrated the greatest self-sacrifice in modern history. Ethical deontology has been replaced by social Darwinism. Justice may soon become a forbidden word in political vocabulary. We may have to call it a J word for justice. It's not anymore. It has certainly become a commodity for sale. Everything seems now to be a commodity for sale. Countries, lives, sacrifices, justice. If there is a standard of cynicism, we are witnessing it now. Can we tolerate it? It's up to you. Thank you.
As you catch your breath, we are here to, first of all, congratulate Oleksandr. When we spoke a little earlier, Oleksandr, you said that you watched films like Schindler's List, and you were trying to see how this very heavy topic could be shared with people. And I know that you've done something extraordinary in the last 2 weeks. You've been going around the States for one day in one place and arrived yesterday, are living. How did you find people taking this heavy material around the United States and the world? Because I understand you've traveled around the world for this. So just your experiences first about how they received the film.
Okay, maybe I start about
movie, when we started preparation to shoot this movie, there are a lot of questions. So why we want to shoot a feature movie? We have a lot of documentary. It's famous documentary which won Oscar, 20 Day in Mariupol. But our idea from the beginning was to share information as widely as possible. And we have, and I understand that only feature a movie which has interesting plot, can be shared to a wide audience. Because we should be honest, common people don't go to the cinema to watch documentary movies. Even on Netflix, Amazon TV, Hulu, we very seldom watch documentary movies. And therefore, we decided to make this movie by real events, but in interesting way. We especially don't make it it's an art house style to show only on festivals. We make in the way which can we show in to big audience. And there are no a lot of violence in a frame. Most of the violence behind the frame, and we understand what happened, but we don't see it. It's also especially to people have more powers to watch this movie and to don't receive censor like 21 plus, how it's called, rate, big rate. And yes, we have our premiere on Warsaw Film Festival. We already have theatrical premiere in Ukraine. We are on Ukrainian Netflix. We sign agreements about distribution in Poland, Canada, Germany, France, Portugal. But of course, one of the important audience is the USA, and it's very hard to achieve distribution in the USA. There are two main reasons. One of them is simple. It's like business reason. In the USA, you know, the television, it's about business. And big streaming company, they looking for this movie. It's independent movie with no A-star class actors, war drama, and they don't see business interest in it. But there are also another problem. It's a politician problem. For example, last year, on the second anniversary of the beginning of the war, we make special event here in Los Angeles, and we invited a lot of Hollywood producers. We show the time draft version, it wasn't final. And one producer on one big streaming platform, I will not say which is the platform. He, after watching, he say, "No, we wouldn't take your movie because this is Ukrainian propaganda. Russians say that this is Ukrainian kills each other, and this is false. And we don't know what happened in Ukraine exactly, and we don't want to be a part of it. It's a reality, and." I don't know if he was honest or maybe it's because of some other reasons. Because, for example, the same situation was with Cannes Film Festival, where we try to show movies. One of person who choose movies for this festival, he said also, "Oh, we don't want to spoil negotiation with Russia. We even wouldn't discuss about it." This is the real life, but. We would continue, and we have, 11 screenings this year, and we are trying to invite press, to invite American politicians, influencers, and this is the way when about this movie we'll write a lot of social media, a lot of newspapers, press. It helped us to achieve our goal to go to American streaming or as a TV. And also, for my opinion, it's very important because maybe you don't know, but Russia spend every year 10 billion ruble for making propaganda movies. And they already have a shoot movie about Bucha, where of course, Ukrainians kill each other, and CNN make false report about this, and they made this movie in English, especially, and they continue spend this. Spend this money. And what for me is very important, it's a good expression. When somebody tell lies 100 times, it became the truth. And Russia also use very smart idea. Well, they say, look, here's Ukrainians' truth, this is our truth, and the real truth may be somewhere in the middle. And what is it's trick. The middle is no in the middle. The truth not in the middle, and we should show this. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexander. I have a couple of questions, but first I want to read something because you raised the issue of truth. So, Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, on the 24th of February 25, on the third anniversary, she visited the EU. She was presiding on the EU delegation to Ukraine. And she said, "We will not forget Bucha. I personally will never forget Bucha. I was there days after the mass killing, and I remember we met there," she said to the Prime Minister for the first time. "We will never forget Mariupol and so many other atrocities." And she went on to say there's been 700 displaced Ukrainian children, 4.5 million Ukrainians who found safety across European member states, but they long to go back. And she announced, because she spoke in a couple of other occasions, of what Europe is willing to do, which is to get Ukraine by 2030 and even before to join the EU, and that would be a safety net for Ukraine. So there is also in her talk as well, she mentions how much Europe has given so far to Ukraine. And if I'm not, yes, she says here on the 4th of February, "So far, our union and member states have supported Ukraine to the tune of 134 billion. That is more than anybody else." And as you said a minute ago, there is this kind of meta-truth or the alternative truth that is being repeated over and over in media. So it would be, I'm sure, interesting to see how your film, since it's started being filmed much early on, it now changes, its life is changing because there is a shift in policy, and this film now is seen with this kind of eerie feeling that US policy has shifted and that the Ukrainian president has been accused as being the one that started this. So what do you think, how do you think this is going to influence your film? And a second question to kind of guide your answer, you mentioned to me before that some of the people that helped you produce this film were diaspora people from Russia. So could you speak to who helped you with this film, and how do you think that this shifting in politics is already affecting the reception of your film?
Okay, thank you. First of all, from the beginning, we decided not to take any government money for this movie. All money for this movie are collected from donation or private investors. And this is for Ukrainians, Polish, Canadian, and some USA citizens. And for example, there are a lot of Ukrainians, Americans, and Russians who immigrate in the USA who support Ukraine very much. For example, one of the first investors, he's famous angel investor Semyon Dukach from Boston. He immigrated from Soviet Union in 80s, and I met his wife when I was volunteering in Chernivtsi. They make huge fund, Cash for Refugees, spent $5 million to give money for refugees. And when I told about the idea of this movie, they told, yes, of course, I'm feel bad about what my ex-country do with Ukrainians, and I want to help you to share this information. And I also think that now I think that we are now in like rare time, but for my opinion, this why I want to show this movie to Americans. We try with main antagonist, this FSB officer, show what Russian ideology is and what Russian imperialism is. In my opinion, it's very important to Americans understand what happened because it's my own opinion now, but I'm sure that this negotiation with Trump and Putin will finish with nothing. Why? Because Russian, in reality, they don't hate China. They don't hate even Ukraine because they think that Ukraine is their part. They hate the USA in reality. And all Russians, if you go to all comments, they hate USA. They hate because they think that the USA is guilty, that USSR was broken. And their main idea to show their power, to rebuild the Russian Empire, Soviet Union. And for my opinion, now they use this situation to show that the USA is weak. I think it could be in the next months or the next months because it's the USA cannot propose USA to Russia what they want. They want all Ukraine. And therefore, for my opinion, it's a trick now that, oh, we negotiate. Okay, they could negotiate 1 year and 2 years more, and all this time they will try to capture Ukraine. And I hope with such a movie, when we show what Russian FSB officers think when I wrote his speeches, this is a FSB officer. Of course, I cannot take interview from real Russian FSB officer, but this person exists. It's a 3 different person combined in one. One is a real FSB officer who was a chief in Bucha and allowed Kostya to bury people. They really met, and he tried to catch Konstantin, asking where you were living in Yekaterinburg. The second one, which make execution on square on March 4th when they put a man on the knees. You can wrote about the situation even in Wikipedia, in the Human Rights Watch report, and even his words, this is the dust and we came to clean you from this dust. It's real words. And the third part about his speeches, I studied all speeches of Solovyov, Strelkov, Girkin, or all other Russian ideologists, what they think about, and it's maybe like funny situation. When we finished our movie, we put our trailer of movie to YouTube for free. And there are was situation when FSB officer told it's a Russian land, it always was Russian land. Americans we would do the same, and a lot of Russian commentators really came to these comments and write, oh, yes, he told the truth. Oh, it's a good movie. It's Russian FSB officer. He is right. They even don't. They agree with what he say. I understood that this is we show really well. It's maybe the last about this person. About actors, it's what was one problem when we make shooting. Half of Ukrainian actors decline to play Russians at all, and yes, and maybe Ukrainians who is here should know this is famous Ukrainian actor Vyacheslav Davzhenko, and he always played good guys like Ukrainian soldiers, Ukrainian cops, Ukrainian famous writers. And I know him, and I came to him and say, Slava, oh, you are so talented actor. Your talent is wide. You should play very bad person, very bad guy. Yes, and it works, and he agreed.
Yeah, your actors are excellent, and I also thought the music and the cinematography were really spot on. We don't have the best movie theater here, so I think the sound comes and really envelops you with these images. So I would like to open it for questions.
Hello, thank you so much for having us here today. My name is Angelica. I'm from Angels of Ukraine. I'm a founder and CEO. Oleksandr, thank you so much for making this movie. I'm originally from Kherson, and whatever was going on in Bucha, similar stuff was going on in Kherson, even worse. I'm a sister of the veteran, and I'm familiar to the war. War in Ukraine started in 2014. So it is very difficult. And when the war started fully, and my brother unfortunately was in coma in a military hospital, and I asked myself what he would do if he was awake. So I took SUVs and started to evacuate children and women from Kherson. and his son, his wife, and they came to our house. It was 20 of them. It's true, it's true. Everything what's on the screen is true. Exactly same story. Same in Kherson, exactly. Same history. And we want to thank you for educating people in the United States. I live here for 15 years, and it's very important to show the truth, what is going on in our land. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit nervous, and the movie is very touchy. And this is what we was going through from the day one of the war. And I want to let you know that I'm helping children. There's a lot of children that don't have moms and dads anymore in Ukraine. They lost them. A lot of fathers are still fighting. The war is not over. And we're helping orphanage homes and children. And we're collecting donations. So if you would like to donate, we'll be happy to accept a donation. And every dollar can put smile to a child or bring diaper to elderly that still in the zones, in the villages that under attack. And thank you so much. And I have a question to Oleksandr. Will you make a movie about Kherson?
Yes, it's also frequently asking question. No, we show that he's going to Kherson because we wanted to show that the war is continuous. That somebody asked, why you couldn't you kill this person? Of course, theoretically we could write that he was killed, but it wasn't true because most of Russian war crime commitments they continue. They do what they did and what is pity, it's a lot of towns and cities about what we could make such movies. And I hope I wouldn't do more such movies. I be honest, I'm as a comedy writer, it was the hardest when you wrote, because you as a screenwriter, you should go through yourself everything. And it's very hard when you wrote script and you understand that this is a real person. For example, we don't show, of course, her photo and her name in the last titles about girl who was in basement. But Kostya take an interview from her, and he told about situation about this woman, how she was dying for 3 days in the basement. And of course, when for me this is the hardest thing. Because of course I cannot ask her, oh, tell me please what were you talking about when she was dying, and I should imagine it and go through myself. And also I think we will speak about this later. We put a lot of symbols in this movie, which completed with Dante Alighieri Divine Comedy, because for our opinion, Bucha became like metaphorical hell for people who live there. And even in this scene with this girl and this woman, you can find it's like Michelangelo chapel, the creating of God, between God and man. And there are also, because we want not only show the nightmares of Bucha, also so a bravest of people and so all metaphorical things. Thank you for your question.
Thank you. So raise your hand, and Zachariah Michelena, my student, is going to give you the microphone. So just, yes, the lady at the back. Thank you.
Heroям слава.
Thank you very much for your movie. I actually saw it when it was not quite edited last year at the Ukrainian Culture Center, and as moving the second time as the first time. Father Cyril, perhaps it will give you some peace of mind that after that vote at the UN, 40 lawmakers sent a letter to the White House saying that it's a disgrace that such a vote should have happened. Wish it had been more, but at least 40. Perhaps they're channeling John Lewis, and it will come. Build it, and it will come. As you know, perhaps many in the audience do not, Holodomor was a Soviet-Russian genocide that occurred in Ukraine in 1932-33, and it was the intentional use of starvation to make Ukrainians submit to Russian authority, Russian culture, Russian religion. They also went after intellectuals and church members, but they went after the peasantry by taking their grain and their homes and their belongings. You have a scene in the movie at one of the Holodomor memorials in Kiev By the way, I hope you'll have an opportunity to look at our Holodomor Memorial here. It was the first in the United States. It's in downtown LA, and it states that 7 to 10 million Ukrainians were killed. Some of the death certificates from that time list the cause of death as, quote, being Ukrainian. By including that scene in your film, did you wish to create a parallel between those times and the Russian activity currently? Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, you're right. There are two main meanings. First of all, we want to connect why Konstantin came to this memorial, because as you can read in the end, 7 members of his family died from hunger when they were deported. And also, of course, we show it because we show this monument for genocide memorial to show that nothing changed. For 100 years, Russia are doing the same. How they killed Ukrainians 100 years ago, so they continue to do this now. This is nothing new. And yes, we wanted to show this connection with this symbol. And the names which you children voice and names which we heard, it's the names of people who killed in Bucha. It's some of names in this scene. Thank you for your question.
Let me just jump in and read something more. So as we are giving the microphone to a new person, let me just read you from the recent summit again on February 24th. The Czech President Petr Pavel recalled the 1938 Munich Agreement signed between the UK, France, Fascist Italy, and Nazi Germany, and obliging Czechoslovakia to surrender its border regions to Germany. Germany subsequently broke the deal and invaded Poland, triggering World War II. So here is a quote. There is no doubt that the ultimate goal is to wipe out Ukraine. We all want a lasting peace, not peace at any cost. Peace is built on the humiliation of the victim, the reward for aggression. We know what betrayal feels like. We had such an experience in 1938. There must be a clear recognition of who is the aggressor and who is the victim.
Actually, I had a chance to visit Munich in the time of the security conference and participated in the security conference in Munich. And there were a lot of talks, conversations. What is it? Is it Munich 1938 or something else? And the prevalent mood was, it was more like Munich 2007, when Putin showed up and declared a new world order. No one believed him. But what happened in Munich 2025, when the vice president showed up, that was perceived by many in the audience like Munich 2007.
My name is Diego Campbell. I am a student here at LMU, and I want to praise you a little for the movie. You established very good atmosphere. The anthology-like sense that some of the scenes had, showing different parts of the story, was also very good. It also gave a good scope. And the scene between the colonel and the evacuator was also really well put together, so just wanted to praise you for that. My question was, when writing the film, what was your objective to do with the Russian characters, the antagonists? What did you want the audience to know and see through your film?
No, as I said, first of all, I want to show what were Russian modern ideologies, Russian imperialism, and we wanted to show, because sometimes we wanted to show that they are smart enemies. We wanted to make the main antagonist very powerful, because, for my opinion, sometimes we can show like not very educated Russian soldiers from poor region, but the main antagonist and the main dangerous people who are smart. I read such interesting book. I read a diary Dinning. When dying, people dying, Hitler and Goebbels. Hitler allowed his secretary to rewrite all his speeches which he had with Goebbels when they had dinner for 3 years. And such book exists, and you can read what they were talking about. And what, for my opinion, is what is dangerous is that if you read this book, what about they talking, you wish to be in their company because they are very educated and smart people. They're talking about architecture, history, literature, painting, and it takes 90% of their speeches. It's very interesting. You wanted to be such a company. And 10% of their speeches, and let's kill all Jewish, and let's evacuate and kill all Slovenians, and continue their good speeches. And we want to show that bad people, they can be very smart, very educated, and we should memorize it. And also we show in our movie like why we include the Swan Lake. Swan Lake, because we are not against Tchaikovsky or Russian music or Russian writers. We're against when Russia use the music, the writers as a weapon. They show, oh, we are a great country with great culture, therefore we can invade Ukraine. It's not so great as me. And we also wanted to show this situation, how Russia used their culture as a weapon.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Two more questions. Yes.
Thank you. I just want to add to this conversation that indeed it's a feature of a movie to show, to emphasize how ugly are the antagonists, how they are disgusting. But the reality is quite different, I believe, because the majority of the antagonists, of those who are the perpetrators, they are actually nice people. You would enjoy conversations with them. That's what Hannah Arendt described as the banality of evil. The evil behind this war coming from Russia is banal in its majority. It's not disgusting. It can be, even nice, beautiful, causing you to be in sympathy with it, but it should not mislead you. It's important to understand that the majority of the evil behind this war is the banal evil in the description of Hannah Arendt.
I'm Paul Escabahesi. I'm a screenwriting major here in Loyola Marymount, and I thought this was a really, really good film. This film was very important to me because I'm actually rewriting. I already registered at Congress, but at the Library of Congress. But I'm actually writing a coming-of-age story that takes place in Eastern Germany, 1953, named Fernweh, which tells a story about a bunch of teenagers trying to escape to the western border, but it tells it from the perspective of teenagers. And in the story there is a similar antagonist with the Russians, more specifically the Stasis, but I just feel that your story, like I try to do research, like 2 months worth of research in my story, but I feel like in comparison to you being Ukrainian, having to do like live, talk to survivors and having to do live research of a conflict that is currently going, I just wanted to ask, just what, as a screenwriter, what gives you strength when you write those pages, when you really try to simulate those images through your head, what gives you the strength, the will, to continue writing, and when there's even a moment that makes you stop because you just realize the horror of what's going on, what gives you the strength?
Thank you very much. It's a very interesting question, and it's very personal. You're right, as about all screenwriters and filmmakers, it's such expression. You should write and talk about what inside of you, what you are, like a good writer or director or should heal himself with his script. It's expression. For me, it's also very personal. I have my own tragedy. I have my younger daughter, and she was 6 years, and 4 years ago, I received unknown disease, and she went to coma, spent 2 months there, and she died. And when your child died, it's the hardest what can be with man, because when all people dying, it's yes hard, but it's understandable, it's nature, and this is a worst situation that can be with people, and it takes me 1 year to begin to live, to continue, and when the war started, and I heard from the news that some missile killed child there, some young man, and I understood what their relatives feel, really, what their mothers feel, because only when you uh, go through such situation by yourself, you can understand this. And they give me this powerful to make this movie, and all end of titles is written that this movie is made for memory for my daughter. Thank you.
Thank you.
When we can expect in the full chains of theaters in US this movie? Because I heard and I saw my friends from Canada was also very impressed about that movie in regular kino theaters, in chains, commercial screenings. What was that?
No, we are working on it, but as I said in the beginning, I don't think that we would have big theatrical distribution. Yes, it's impossible for independent movie. It's more possible, and we are working on it, to go to some streaming platform. We had about five. You have 5 big streaming platforms, and we now in negotiation with some of them. And if we achieve this goal, I think it's even better than theatrical, because they have much biggest audience than theatrical. We are trying to do this. And also what I begin to talk, I know it will be interesting for you, and it's about second metaphorical liar in our movie. As I said, we were inspired by Dante Alighieri Divine Comedy, because and we want to put second metaphorical liar to this movie, to show that Bucha became hell for people who lived there, and our main character, as hero of Dante, go to this hell and save people to paradise, to free Ukraine. There are a lot of symbols. They always drove through the river. You remember, this is a river. It's like sticks between land, death, and the life. They begin began their way on Hoverla mountain near cross, as a mountain is the nearest point to the God in all religions, and after that, he go down, and for example, you remember when the Russian soldiers, they are sitting in the basement with fire, they like devils in such situation. And there are a lot of other symbols. For example, the last scene when the Russian FSB officer, he goes through ice. You remember through ice when he is shelled. And this is especially because by Bible and Dante Alighieri Divine Comedy, the last circle of the hell is Ice Lake Katsit, and we wanted to show he came like liberator, and he went to the last circle of the hell. And also our main character, he met with all deathly 7 sins on his wave, and you can find symbols of these deathly sins. For example, one of deathly sins is greed, and the symbol of the greed is a frog. Ukrainians should know expression «жаба давить». And you remember when the intelligent officer proposed money for saving people, he rejected and gave back a little toy frog, and he resisted this sin. And in the next scene, Russian loot, and the first of the loot, the golden frog, little frog. And all other symbols. Envy, it's a snake, we can say, and lust is a goat, and all these symbols. And here talking about this, it's the hardest sin is a pride, and we wanted to show that our main characters became a little pride, and he should искупить, he redeemed his sin, and when he became he lying on the land, and the Russian like kill him, he should stay new person, new brave person. And also it's this girl Katya, she's a real girl. She's I know her parents and her father, and she's continue healing in Italy. And for our opinion, she she became an angel for our main character. And you remember, he go upstairs to her. She's sitting on the upstairs, and her bandage is like Nimbus, and he be
Like Halo.
Halo. Yes, and she made our hero brave. It's a lot. No, it's a lot of interesting situation.
If I may add just one more detail to that, probably you've noticed the model of Renault, which is filmed most like the car used by the main character. The model is Zoe. Those who know Greek, it's life, right? Was it on purpose?
Yeah, because his real car was Tesla, and after that we choose another car. And yes, yeah, I can spend. Maybe we can play this game to find all symbols in this movie. It's our idea, maybe for you to watch it again and find other symbols in this movie.
I think I told you before, I liked this expression, which is very Greek as well. If anything happens to you, I'll kill you.
Yes, and also I know it's our main. It's the famous phrase, and this phrase it was the President Kennedy likes this phrase. It's the hardest place in the hell for people who maintain a neutrality in time of moral crisis. So I think it's very good for our times.
Very.
And
yes.
I want one thing more. About Konstantin, a lot of people ask about Konstantin, what is his future? He's continuing living in Ukraine. He has his charity foundation. He supports old people, young children, and you remember this flag? He's really went to Havana, and he really hang flag when liberate Bucha, and we take the same flag with and Konstantin make signature, and I want to present to you and your university for organizing this screening. It's one moment. It's written Gudauskas. Thank you for your support.